You're enough. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You are a whole and amazing human being. You are perfect just as you are.
Your mind can be your most valuable asset or your biggest liability, and you get to choose. This is the Building Psychological Strength podcast, where we explore ways to build resilience, build confidence, and make our minds work in our favor. We draw from the fields of psychology and life design to help us intentionally create a rock-solid mindset upon which a vibrant life experience can be built. My name is April Seifert. I'm a psychologist, a life design strategist, and co-founder of Peak Mind, the Center for Psychological Strength. Each week, I'll introduce you to an expert, a concept, a technique, or a hands-on practice that will help you build psychological strength in your own life. These are the tools to help you thrive. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Building Psychological Strength podcast. My name is April Seifert, and I'm your host. This week, we are speaking to an incredible woman named Betty Jean Bell. Betty Jean helps people. The most basic part of the work that she does is she helps people lose weight. She helps people improve their health. And I don't want to say that in a way that makes it seem like that's not important. That work is important, but the work that she does touches on the most foundational principles and the most foundational aspects of our minds psychologically that, sure, by helping people in those areas, it helps them lose weight, it helps them, improve their health, but it's impossible to work on something that foundational and have it only impact that one part of someone's life. So you'll see what I'm talking about as we go through this interview. Betty Jean's work really focuses on these automatic, habitual thought patterns that we have that, frankly, are just not helpful. Our minds send us a slew, just an onslaught of thoughts throughout the day, more than we can even count, and many of them aren't helpful and aren't even necessarily true. They are just thoughts that our mind sends us that it learned from who knows where, and we have the decision as to whether to entertain or believe any given set of thoughts. And that's really the foundational piece that we are focusing on within this interview today. So yes, Betty Jean will talk a bit about how that helps people lose weight and get healthier and, love themselves more. But I would challenge you to make improvements in that foundational part of your psychology and show me how it hasn't impacted your job, your career, your financial outlook, your relationships, your, marriage, your relationships with your kids, your outlook, how you feel about yourself, all of it, because it's all tied back to that concept of worthiness and sense of self and how we do or don't evaluate and entertain the thoughts that our mind sends us. This episode is so powerful because it does hit so squarely on that aspect of psychology that I wish everyone could understand. With that, I want to make a quick announcement. This episode is being sponsored by an absolutely free live webinar that Peak Mind has coming up, and I'm so excited to tell you just a bit about it. Coming up in mid-December, we are hosting a webinar. Now, there's a bunch of different times and dates available, so pick one that works for you. But we're hosting a webinar called Limitless: How Your Identity Creates Self-Limiting Beliefs. This work is so core and so foundational. Again, as I've mentioned about this conversation we're about to have with Betty Jean, it's so core and so foundational to not only your sense of self, but every other aspect of your life is influenced by this particular set of thought processes. So in this 60-minute, hands-on, live, free webinar, we're going to talk about how your self-limiting beliefs form from your identity, and you're going to walk away with so much more clarity about your own self-imposed limitations and what to do about them. We're so excited about this webinar because it is such a foundational, big deal to the way that we cultivate psychological strength. So I had to mention that here. back to this week's interview. You guys are absolutely going to love Betty Jean and her energy and the vibrance that she brings to this interview. I absolutely can't wait for you to hear her actionable steps at the end of this interview. They are powerful and they are such, a hands-on way for you to put the information that she gave during this powerful interview to work in your own life. So stick it out to the end, catch those hands-on exercises because you're not going to want to miss them. All right, you guys, I can't wait for you to hear this interview with Betty Jean. Betty Jean, I am so excited that you're here. I've been looking forward to this for weeks now, and we are just going to have the best conversation. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Now, I always get beyond excited for these conversations when I know that I'm going to get to geek out about the mind and how it works and some of the misconceptions that people have, that we sort of fall into these traps of our own minds that are to our detriment. And I know that that is something that you're really passionate about too. So this is going to be beyond fun today.
Yeah, this is totally my nerdy place. I'm so excited to talk about psychological strength today. I love that term.
Yay. Okay, so let's dive right in. You do some amazing work that focuses on one of the fundamental misconceptions about our mind that I think if everyone could hear this and everyone could understand this, the world would be a better place. And that is that our mind sends us lots of thoughts. I mean, tons of thoughts on a given day, but not every one of them, in fact, lots of them, aren't actually helpful or even true. And so I love that your work focuses so much on that. Can you just give us a little bit of an overview of the types of topics that you tackle?
Yeah, so for years, I've been helping women with weight loss and their relationship with food and their relationship with body. One of the big things women come to me with are, these thoughts about, God, if I can just lose the weight, then my life will work. And it shows up in a lot of different ways. We assign so many meanings to the thoughts we have about many aspects of life. In the context of this, it's the thoughts we have about our body. And, I've heard women say, if I don't, I have to lose the weight so someone will want to marry me, or I have to lose the weight because this health condition's going to, there's this fear like I'm going to die if I don't lose the weight, or, I have to lose the weight or no one's going to hire me. I have to lose the weight or fill in the blank. And then taking that even further, we have all these thoughts, all these feelings and thoughts actually, that we assign all these meanings to about food and our body. And a lot of them can conflict and we wonder why we struggle. Like, I really have to lose, if I don't lose the weight, then my life's not going to work, for whatever various reason that one has decided. But then on the other hand, in the exact same day, they go, but I can't let go of, the food as a coping mechanism to like assuage the stress and fear I feel in my body. And then we'll have these feelings and we assign all these meanings to what they are. We'll feel a feeling in our body and instantaneously go, oh, I must be sad. Oh, I'm overweight. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm not beautiful. And it's all these, our body has its own experience and we will assign thoughts to it. We will assign meanings to it. So there's like kind of two things going on here. These thoughts that have now become beliefs because we're simply habitually thinking them. We've thought I have to be a certain dress size in order for my life to work for so long that it seems like a truth. And then we have that simultaneous dichotomy of, using food to cope with life, and the two are at odds, or hating exercise or loving exercise, or like assigning meanings to exercise, assigning meanings to sleep, all these various aspects. So there's like a lot of thoughts we think all day that are either supporting us or sabotaging us or keeping us stuck or keeping us feeling small. So yeah, it's like a giant rabbit hole to talk about all the thoughts that we get bombarded with every day and which ones we choose to participate with and let them kind of sculpt our life for us, and then which ones we don't.
I love that you just said that we get to choose which thoughts that we engage with, which thoughts that we believe, and which ones we don't. Recently, I interviewed Dr. Stephen Hayes. He's the founder of acceptance and commitment therapy. He's one of the most influential psychologists in the world right now. And that's one of the cornerstones to one of the pillars of his therapy is that, and there's a therapeutic technique with it, and then there's just more of like a lifestyle, live a better life technique to it. And this part is a major component of it, where your thoughts are just things that your mind is sending you. They're not necessarily true. I mean, it's just throwing stuff at you that in a lot of cases, you may not even have any clue where they came from or how they got encoded in the first place, but your mind just passively learned them. And now it's just given it back to you. We joke about this all the time and we say this quote, but I wish there was a way to say it loud enough or frequent enough for people to truly understand the weight of it. And that is, you don't have to believe every thought that you think. You do have a choice as to which ones you decide to believe based on how relevant they are, how helpful they are. Are they helping you achieve your goals? And if they're not, you can just take them as what they are. Oh, that was a thing my mind sent me. Okay. And just let it go. It's just, and I wish there was a way to have everyone understand the gravity of what you just said. You get to choose which ones you engage with and which ones you believe.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like taking notes as you talk, like, yes, good point. Yes, good point. So good. This is such my nerdy place. Like, it's so fun. We're talking about this stuff in the context of body, of weight loss, but it is so true. The energy with which we do one thing is the energy with which we do all things. What we're talking about here, it doesn't matter if it's money. It doesn't matter if it's relationships. It doesn't matter if it's health. It does not matter. This is the thing that helps guide every aspect of our life. And I love what you said. You don't have to believe every thought you think. I would also extend that to, you don't have to believe every feeling you feel, because our body has its own experience. I heard in one of your other episodes, which I just really enjoy the podcast, and I'm so grateful you're out there doing the work that you're doing, because this stuff really is important. And it is true that, what we consume, it's not just food. It's things like this. Like, you really do become that which you consume. And so it's spending time having these conversations that already start shifting the neural pathway. They already start expanding what's possible for you, and to help you start shifting those neural pathways. And something else you were saying, it made me think of, when we're thinking about whether we're participating or not participating with a thought, they are choices. But we have so many thoughts that we have been participating with for so long, and feelings as well. And we've been participating with them for so long that we've mentally rehearsed them. Like, one might, come home every day after work, and the go-to is, I'm just too exhausted to make dinner. And pizza is just the way. And it's just become a habit. And the more that we do it, the harder it is to interrupt the habit. And what's really going on there, people then assign meanings. I'm a failure. What's wrong with me? Why can't I change this? I need to lose the weight so my life will work, or whatever it is. But what's really going on there, it's not something to beat ourselves up about. And that's one of the big things in my work, in every aspect of what I do. Women, even men, some men that I get to chat to, they come to this work really, really beating themselves up about assigning all this meaning about who they are and what it means about them, that they haven't been able to create create the health they want, or lose the weight, or whatever physical thing that they want to do. And they feel like there's something wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with them. A big thing when it comes to changing our psychology, changing our thought patterns, if I could really put out one message out into this world, it's that, darling, you're enough. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You are a whole, an amazing human being. You are perfect just as you are. And the stuff that is challenging you right now, it's a lot of it's just these neural pathways that have just, you got a deep river. You can think about neural pathways like a river. You've got a deep riverbed on these feelings of not enoughness, these thoughts of not enoughness. Whether that means you don't think your body is enough, or you don't think that you can change your body because like you failed before. What if you fail again? These not enough thoughts, you just have a deep riverbed on them. It doesn't make them true, and it doesn't make you less than. It just means you've got a deep riverbed. When you start learning to interrupt the patterns, it can be as simple as listening to podcasts like this. It can be as simple as choosing a different thought at first, which eventually leads to taking a different action, because there is a sequence to things. When you start to interrupt the neural pathways, what you can think about it as is you're diverting the water from the old riverbed and you're kind of sending it into a new riverbed. Well, eventually, with interruption, pattern interruption, thought interruption, when you begin to choose a new thought pattern, your thoughts create your feelings create your actions, and your actions create your world. So it starts by choosing a new thought. And the more frequently you do this, the more frequently you interrupt the not enough thoughts, the self-doubting thoughts, the self-critical thoughts, the self-harming thoughts, the more you start to divert that water to that new riverbed. And eventually, just with repetition, you begin to really deepen the new riverbed into the I am enough thinking, into I can do this, I've got this. Like, it all starts with my thoughts. So, I'm very passionate about this stuff that you're sharing with the world, because I truly, the way to transform any aspect of life really does begin with our thoughts.
I totally agree. I love the analogy of the riverbed. That is the analogy that I've been searching for. I'm like, it's like carving a groove. I'm like, and I couldn't think of the fact that like water carves a groove. There you go. That's so good. That's so good. And something that I want people to understand is there's a lot of talk out there in the personal development literature and just, in general out in the literature space these days about authenticity, right? Be authentic, be authentically you, whatever. This gets muddled in this exact topic because habits are easy, right? Habits are something that we have practiced so often that we have muscle memory, or in this case, we have cognitive memory or neural memory that just can fire through that thought pattern so quickly and effortlessly almost and easily. We mistake that effortlessness for authenticity sometimes. So if you're saying to yourself, I'm not enough, I can't, people like me can't do things like that, I could never, whatever it is, that feels authentic. Like the answer to that, oh, I'm obviously not the type of person who, does things like that. We take that as true just because it is cognitively easy to come to mind. And in the contrast to your point about carving the new riverbed, I just want to highlight this to people, because do not fall into this trap. When you start going down that new, more helpful thought process, it's gonna feel clunky and awkward and weird, because you're going from something that's habitual and easy and friction-free in terms of how easily that thought pattern comes to mind, and you're doing something that requires effort. And there's just going to be more friction and clunkiness there. That does not mean that that thought pattern is any less authentic than the other one. Neither of them matter. You're just picking the one that's more functionally helpful. And that's where people get tripped up with this notion of authenticity these days. And I'm like, I almost wish someone would pick a different word for it, because we mistake a mental habit, the ease with which that mental habit executes. We mistake that as authenticity and say, okay, this other thing that I'm having to work so hard to do, that obviously isn't the real me. And that is not the case. Like, that's so false. I just needed to make sure that we say that really clearly, because I don't want somebody to take your amazing advice and then think as they're starting it, wow, this feels clunky. I must be really faking this. That's not the case. It isn't at all. It's just your mind doesn't have that habit yet. You just have to build it.
You are blowing my mind right now.
Oh, it's going to be so
yes,
fun. We're going to have so
I
much
ta-
fun.
oh my God. I talk about that all the time too. Like change is awkward. It's super awkward. And the other thing too, especially because I've been operating in this weight loss space for so long and this body image space, uh, people think, just like you were saying, that it's supposed to be easy, And the other thing that is just rampant in the weight loss healing, and I don't care if it's like you're trying to reduce inflammation for a medical condition. I don't care if it's you're trying to reach a dress size for your wedding. I don't care if it's you're just trying to learn to love your body. Like you just want to change your psychological perspective on your body because of the way culturally we have approached body stuff. We put these ridiculously short timelines on it. It's like, it's such an extreme culture. And the longer I've been immersed in it, it's from the weight loss standpoint, it's, lose 30 pounds in 30 days and like just stand in the grocery aisle. Like I read the most ridiculous things. I'm just like, oh my God, like it's such BS, these timelines, these rapid transformation timelines. Nobody can do it in that timeline because what you are changing here, it's not just your biology, like your physicalness. What really creates the change is your psychology. And you can develop new neural pathways in an instant. Of course that can happen. But when it comes to body, and usually when it comes to anything significant, the loving relationship we want, the transformation in business, the transformation in body, whatever, it usually has more than one aspect. So we're often learning how to shift loads of neural pathways, like so many thought patterns. There's the food, there's what we think about food, there's certain triggering situations that also that need neural pathway shifting. There's just so many aspects to it. And even as there's been this beautiful emergence of the body positive movement, right? The culture. But even as because I've been in that too, like I don't feel right now that the weight loss and health industry or the body positivity industry are, I hate to use the words right or wrong because any improvement is improvement. We're all doing the best we can, moving and, trying to do better. But I don't feel like either of them are really wholly approaching this the right way. I feel like it's just two extremes kind of at odds with each other. So the body positivity kind of world really likes to, diets are bad and like, don't try to change your body. And I've even heard people go as far as to say, don't try to love your body. Just don't even think about it. It's this concept of body neutrality. Like, just don't think about it and just go live your life. And I think that's a good path to healing. I feel like that's a good second step. Because if one looks in the mirror and her first thought is, I hate my body, I look disgusting, or she's saying these really harsh things, that individual's not going to move from hate to love in one step, That person's going to move from hate to maybe neutrality. That's a great move in the right direction. It means for the first time in her life, maybe she's not thinking about her body. She's actually just thinking about living a fulfilled life, and she's trying to learn what that looks like. That's awesome. But I don't feel like that's the ultimate goal. I have found, as a woman who did hate her body and nearly ended her own life because of how hard I struggled with it, I know that love exists. And love is a thing. When you love something, you want to take care of it. It's like you think about your kids or your pets, like if you have a cute little dog, you want to buy it outfits it doesn't want to wear. You like want to think about it and get it like groomed, and you just want to look at it and spend time with it and hug it and love it. And that's how I feel about my body. Like now I look in the mirror, I'm like, what kind of eyeshadow you wear? What do you want to wear today? Like, what color do you want your hair to be? Like, I have so much fun dressing up my body, no matter what size she's in. And my weight fluctuates like every single woman. I recently went through, I'm about to turn 40, so my body is changing again as it does every decade. But love is unwavering and unconditional, at least for our bodies. And there is a place where there is a thing where there is love and you aren't basing your worth off what your size is or what's happening in your body. It is a constant love of the vessel your spirit gets to live in and experience life through, whether, whatever limitations or gifts or abilities you have. And so I feel like it's, there is this concept of love. And then I also see the body positivity community really hating on the idea of losing weight. Like there's a lot of weight loss shaming that I found very like unhelpful in the body positivity community, because what if you do have a life-threatening illness that's based on your weight? Like that person like wants to live a long time, and I don't feel like they should be shamed. There's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight. But I think when we're looking to lose weight because we think it's going to make us a more valuable or loving or worthy person, I think that's where things get muddled. And then the same is true in the opposite. In the weight loss community, we see so much like get your confidence back when you lose the weight, feel beautiful again when you have the bikini body. And I've met just as many men and women who lost the weight and were worse off. I was one of them, because I had a health condition for a long time where I always joked I was the fittest fat girl at the gym, because no matter how I trained harder, I ate cleaner than everybody, and I just kept getting bigger and bigger because I was sick. There was something else going on. And yet there's also, I've been this person as well, but I've met a lot of clients who would come to me who had lost the weight. They hit their goal weight and they were like, Betty, I thought I was going to feel better when I got here. I actually feel worse, because I thought weight loss would do all this stuff for my life, and my life, I feel terrible. And now I just realized weight loss doesn't fix anything. So that was a big, long kind of review of my experience, having been trying to like walk this line of helping people lose weight in a psychologically healthy way, and being a body positivity person as well. There's a lot of photos of me on the internet in my underwear, trying to be an example of what it looks like to fully accept the body. And I used to get a lot of like really unkind messages from peers in weight loss and peers in body positivity telling me I was irresponsible to talk about self-love and psychology and weight loss in the same breath. And, so it's been really interesting to kind of be in this industry, but I just feel like when we look at our thoughts as the leading source, and we learn, just to your point, we can create whatever life we want. And who we are right now is not our authentic identity. We're just a product of the thoughts we habitually think. That's all.
I love that. I recently interviewed, it's episode 140, a woman named Kayla Landetta. I'll link up her episode in the show notes page as well, because she talks a lot about something that you just spoke about around the weight loss itself is not going to be the thing that leads you to feel a certain way. So she went through bariatric surgery and lost an incredible amount of weight. And now she helps people, she coaches people through that process before the surgery and getting ready and, all the crazy moving pieces that I didn't even know existed. Then through the surgery and what happens afterward as they start to lose weight, and then ultimately get to a point where they've plateaued and that's just what their weight is. And there's identity and emotion and just thought pattern and mindset shifting that repeatedly happens during that process. And I think one of the hardest things, and she mentioned this too, that her clients also go through, is that there's so much wrapped up in who we are right now that when that shifts, even if it is in the direction that you were hoping to go, there can be a lot of just discomfort and pain because we get comfortable in whatever habitual process we find ourselves in. So anytime we make one of those shifts, it's going to be difficult. And the thing to note is that, And it's funny because so many things are interconnected here. I'm having a hard time saying this succinctly, but this is another thing that acceptance and commitment therapy also focuses on. I'm just reading a ton about it now, and I'm really excited about it. But they focus on this aspect of self, meaning who you truly are, like the actual sense of self that you have. And that is not the same as your body. That's not the same as your thoughts. That's not the same as your emotions. That isn't the same as any of these sensations that we have. And I think those are connected. And it's beautiful the way that you described it, because that sense of self is the one thing that's there. That's the one stable thing that sits there in the middle of all of this chaos. That's the thing. That's the stable core. And if you can figure out who that person is and what that stable person is, and it comes in the form of what do you value? What do you care about? Like, how do you want to show up above everything else? What are the 3 to 5 things you care about more than anything else? If you can figure out what that is, as your weight changes, as your job changes, as your relationships change, any of these other just big life changes that we have, you at least have a stable core to hold on to. And I know Kayla experienced that with her work and her clients. It sounds like you experienced that. And 2, Dr. Hayes experiences that with his clients, who he's not even focusing on weight loss necessarily with them. It's just any kind of major life upheaval and big change comes with this sense of just, wow, the boat's really rocking now, and I'm not sure what to hold on to. And you hold on to that center, that sense of self that is not the same as any of these other things. And he just does such a beautiful job of overviewing it, but it just tied so beautifully back to what you said. If you're like most people, your mind isn't always your biggest cheerleader. Do any of these thoughts sound familiar? People like you can't do things like that. Come on, who do you think you are? Do you really think you'll be able to keep it up, even if you do succeed at first? Our minds send us a constant stream of thoughts throughout the day, and not all of them are helpful or even true. In reality, a good chunk of those thoughts are mental habits or assumptions that formed long ago, and they don't do us any favors, especially when we're trying to go after something big. These thoughts are self-limiting beliefs, and unfortunately, they're way too common. If you've ever experienced self-limiting beliefs, we've got the free webinar for you. In mid-December, Peak Mind will be hosting an absolutely free live webinar focused on helping you understand where those self-limiting beliefs come from and why they're so influential over you. We'll dig deep into the science of identity, and we'll help you spot those beliefs and see them for what they are, a set of unhelpful assumptions that you don't have to follow. Head over to peakmindpsychology.com/webinar to register. Imagine what your life would feel like if you didn't have those thoughts and beliefs holding you back. How big of a goal would you set? How much more confident would you be? What do you think you could accomplish? Join us live and absolutely free. Registration is required, so head over to peakmindpsychology.com/webinar to sign up. Your limitless future starts now. We can't wait to see you there.
Man, I'm trying not to just squeal with excitement. I just love this conversation so much. I love that you are putting, all of these, all of us doing this work out into the world. And it's just so good because, a new thing that I've really been into, there's a book I'm reading. I think it's really great. And I think everybody should read it. And it's called Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man. It's good. I think you'd really love it as well. I won't talk about the book, but, stillness was the word I was really looking for. And I know in my weight loss work, the next iteration of that is going to be the program will be called Weight Loss Through Stillness. And when I'm talking about stillness, it's really about what you just said here. We are the spirits, living inside of this vessel that we have been gifted. Like, this is our, our Aston Martin. This is our Ferrari. This is the sports car that we get to live in. And when we don't understand it, we tend to like to war on things we don't understand.
That's so true. I want you to say that again because that, like, apply this to every aspect of your life, whether it's relationships, your job, your body, yourself, like, I don't care. You have to say that one more time. That was so good.
I'm happy to do it. We tend to war on things we don't understand. And you're right. It's true for our body. Like these things don't come with a user manual. I'd say 99% of the women that I've worked with when they first came to the program, they actually had no understanding of what feeling good actually felt like in their bodies. They've just never really known. They've checked out for so long. They think they know what feeling good is, but until they have learned to understand their bodies, like and we're always joke, but I'm being serious. We are biological unicorns. We each of us are so individual. There are fundamental truths for everybody. Like we all have livers, we all have like organs that function the same, but there's still uniqueness to us. Avocados may be inflammatory to you, they may be great for me, vice versa. And there's all these intricacies. And when we don't have basic understandings, we tend to numb out, check out. Um, you know, we don't think to go inward to find the answers. We think surely somebody else knows better. That Instagram model with the six-pack abs, obviously she knows something I don't know. And yes, in many contexts that may be true, but she doesn't have the user's manual on your body. Stillness, the reason I feel so attracted to this concept of stillness is because what I have found for myself and what I've found for my clients is, sure, I'm going to teach, I love science, obviously, and I teach a lot of biology. I teach a lot of, just I teach the women basic stuff about their body so they can begin to have a context of understanding their body. But at the end of the day, it's really about going inward and learning instead of checking out and numbing out with food or trying to do some prescription of weight loss that some other person gave you and then feeling like a failure, like, ugh, it doesn't work for me. Either I'm a failure or that is total BS. That plan's never going to work for anybody. We make these really extreme opinions about stuff when it doesn't work for us, like, oh, it must not work for anybody, or, I can never do it. But really, stillness is about going inward and being able to be objective and to let go of all the meanings we're assigning to stuff and being able to be present with our own bodies. Like, hey, when I eat gluten, how do I feel for the next hour? Just be quiet and notice what's happening with your body. You don't need a manual. You don't need really a functional physician to tell you. There's stuff that's going to be going on. For years, I thought I had asthma. I didn't. It's just that when I eat gluten, it closes my airway. But until I slowed down enough to be present with that, I started to notice lots of foods did that. And then, there's some biological stuff I won't go into here as to why I started to make sense of all of that. But it's the same with money. We don't understand money. Most people don't. And so what happens? We just don't look at it. And even thinking about looking at it brings up a ton of anxiety and fear. And it's just all these meanings about what it means about us because we do understand it or don't understand it. So like to your point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it's about. If we don't understand it, we tend to want to go to war with it and be like, put our bodies into the box of somebody else's diet. And when it doesn't work, we get angry and we're like, why doesn't my body do what I want it to? Whatever, I'm giving up. I'm going to go eat all the donuts. It's pointless anyway. And that sounds extreme, but that's really common. I feel like it's because we're going back to your earlier point. It's because we're trying to force ourselves into inauthenticity. Sometimes we believe that other people know better. And we have all these stories about who we are and what it means and how things have to be done, even if we don't have any knowledge about it. We just think, there's only one way to make $1 million. There's only one way to lose all the weight, and it's to spend like 2 hours at the gym and to eat 1,200 calories a day, and it's got to be hard. We just have all these stories. But I'm finding more and more in my life, after having healed from multiple illnesses I was told were incurable, that nearly caused me to end my own life because I was just so tired of being in pain, feeling like a failure, and a lot of different other challenges I was going that went with it psychologically. But having overcome all that stuff, having, built businesses and failed at so many things in businesses, and, having so many terrible relationships, now to have an amazing relationship, with a fiance I've been with for 5 years. But it was just coming through all of this stuff more and more. The more I tried to quote unquote do it right using other people's methods, the further and further away I felt from what I wanted. I felt more and more like a failure, more and more like who I was in my core was not good enough. It wasn't until I really discovered stillness, and that the belief that, hey, I came here into this earth fully equipped. Who I am on the inside, independent of all these stories and things that I'm piling on, beliefs and thoughts that I'm piling on top, that I am using to re-identify who I am at my core, my spirit. Those were the things that were getting in the way. And it was actually stillness that healed every area of my life and like transformed everything.
I love that. I'm wondering so you've mentioned the work that you do with your clients and some of the, more hands-on work that you do to help people make some of these transitions. I'm wondering if you could share with us just some tips, like if you could prescribe something to people who are listening to this to go forward and start to make some shifts in their own lives, what would you go have them do?
Yeah. So, I had some tricks that I was going to share with you, but as our conversation has unfolded, I think I may even share some like deeper, a little bit different tips. The first thing would be, number one, take responsibility. And I mean loving, non-judgmental responsibility. And I know this is something, April, that responsibility is a big thing for you too, which is why I want to like come on and go, yes, April, yes, what she's saying is yes, 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 yes. Like, listen to April. She knows what she's talking about. Take loving, non-judgmental responsibility for the thoughts and feelings that are currently there. And remember, also something that April says a lot, that a lot of these are just happening. Some you choose to think, others just, they come and go, right? And that's fine. You don't need to control your thoughts. It's just building that awareness and full responsibility that you can control where the river is going. You can feed the riverbed of self-doubt and not enoughness, or you can begin a practice of diverting the water and building those new neural pathways. So step one, super lovingly, tell yourself every day, even if you don't believe it right now, hey, I'm enough. I am built perfectly. I am absolutely enough. And I have complete control over where my thoughts and my life go. And even though it feels like chaos right now, or even though I'm having a really hard time believing I'm enough, I know that those are just old neural pathways. They are no more true than anything else. And I get to choose my truth. And I am choosing now to reprogram my thoughts to believe that I'm enough, because that is true. So that's step one. Step two, I have this fun trick called the interrupting cow trick. The interrupting cow trick was like 1.0. I'm going to share with you 2.0. I'll give you interrupting cow trick first because it's hilarious, and laughter is so important for healing. So the abridged version of, it's not really abridged, but the interrupting cow trick. April, will you do a knock knock joke with me?
Love to.
So knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow.
Moo! So, it's really silly, but once I got out of meditation, I came out, and that's what I feel like I got this download from the universe of interrupting cow trick. So, and I shared it with my girls, and interrupting cow trick is, so often we have these habitual thoughts, And we've been believing them. I'm not good enough. I look too old. I'm ugly. I'm disgusting. I've heard it all. Like these thoughts that women truly, and men, I'm not making enough. I'm not a good enough provider, whatever. These I'm not enough thoughts. The first step, and really the tool I teach now is control 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to blend these two together because it's fun. The first step really in control 1, 2, 3 is recognizing step one is just becoming aware that you're thinking the negative thought. And that's what you just become aware. You're like, oh, I'm doing that thing where I call myself not enough, whatever that looks like for you. And it's no judgment. It's just instantaneous awareness. And that's where the moo cow trick comes in. As soon as you notice it, you just say, moo. No, I'm not participating with the thought. And what's fun about moo cow trick is it makes you laugh because like you're mooing and nobody knows why. You might do it out loud. You might do it, in your head. But I know my girls, they have pictures of like funny moo cows around their house now, like their Post-its, or they'll get little cow statues. And it just cracks me up the things that the girls have done for interrupting cow trick. But the point of control 1, 2, 3, interrupting cow trick is what I used to teach. Control 1, 2, 3 is pretty much the same thing, but it kind of explains what was going on in interrupting cow trick. Number one, you build that awareness. You're thinking a negative thought because you feel bad. Like when you feel less than or you feel bad, you can immediately know, oh, I'm trying to control something that's out of my control, right? I'm saying my body should be different right now, but it's not. And I feel bad about it. And I'm assigning all this meaning. And that doesn't serve you. Like your body is what it is. It doesn't make you good. It doesn't make you bad. It's just like a thing that's there. And so number one, become aware. Number two, laugh at yourself. And interrupting cow trick is a great way to do it and be like, oh, I'm doing that thing where I talk smack to myself and I make myself seem less than. That's hilarious. I always do that. That's so funny. And just laughing at yourself. And then step 3 is I have my girls go do something that has nothing to do with what they are currently focusing on. So often when somebody wants to shift their thinking or whatever, it's kind of like that example I used earlier. A woman currently hates her body. She wants to love her body, but you don't go from hate to love. It's really about rebuilding the neural pathways. So it isn't about fixing yourself. It's about changing the thought patterns that are habitually there. So the way we do it is, if you're being down on your body or down, it doesn't matter what you're being down on yourself. Step 1, notice. Step 2, laugh at yourself. Step 3, go do something that gets you feeling good, that makes you laugh and has nothing to do with life. So my girls, I usually have them create some sort of like little folder of adorable, hilarious babies or like baby animals, nothing negative. So like not animals falling and getting hurt. I don't love that. Stuff like I don't know, little dogs and hats, right? It doesn't matter. Just things that make you laugh, that have nothing, you have no resistance to. And what that does is it really starts to, eventually you won't need the happy to go look at happy things. Because what will happen is you'll notice the negative thought, you'll laugh at yourself, and you will build the neural pathway. You'll have interrupted it enough that you immediately back off and you're like, oh man, it's no big deal. I was just doing that thing where I talk down to myself, and you immediately feel the relief because you've trained your brain to go feel good with something you had no resistance to, instead of continuing to focus on what is quote unquote wrong with you. And you're not trying to fix it.
This makes a ton of sense. I love that. I love it because the focus on needing to fix yourself, it's twofold. Number one, it just puts a negative cloud over who you are, right? So you're already approaching yourself from the standpoint of, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me. That's not a great jumping off point. But 2, it delays your ability to really live life and thrive and be happy because it puts you back in that mindset that you spoke about earlier about how, oh, okay, when I change, when I make, when I lose, when I whatever, then I'll get to be happy. But this is saying, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Sure, you can do some things differently, but you're great and beautiful and perfect just as you are right now. I love that.
And the shocking thing is, this is what makes women lose weight. It's not, yes, the meal plan you do, the plan you do is important. But I heard another of my mentors, like she's amazing. It's about money and business. She's one of the most brilliant women I've ever known. Her name is Christina Wise. And, we were talking about money, and she goes, when you have a consistent plan for building wealth, we're not talking income, we're talking building wealth. And when you have this consistent plan and you do the plan, like you don't have to worry about the money coming. It is exactly the same as when you have a consistent plan for building muscle. Like you know what to do 5 days a week. You just know you got to go to the gym and you got to lift the weights and you know exactly what to do and it's all written out. You know that if you go do the plan, the muscle's going to come. You don't have to stress about it. It'll, like, the muscle will just handle itself as long as you work the plan. That's what's really interesting about control 1, 2, 3. If you start rebuilding the neural pathways and learning to make feeling good and seeing yourself as enough as a priority, you will be shocked. The weight will come up all by itself. And you'll be like, what is this voodoo magic? Why is this working? But when you think, we have two ways that we think. When we think, I'm not enough, then it leads to I'm not enough feelings, which lead to fixing actions, which lead to the current results we commonly see in that, when we're trying to fix ourselves, we rarely get or keep the results. It leads to temporary weight loss, temporarily maybe feeling good, and then something bad happens. Like anything, like it's the normal like weight loss stuff doesn't typically work. And it's because it's coming from this source of I'm not enough thinking. But when we start seeing ourselves as enough, then no matter what, we feel like we're enough. And when we feel like we're enough, we just want to take care of ourselves. We just want to do nice things for ourselves, which means like we're going to probably make better choices in our eating and we're not going to have any weird attachments or meanings. It's like we just feel good. And so we want to be good to ourselves. And as a result, we look back and go, holy crap, when did I lose 30 pounds? And that's what's happened for my girls. They look back and they go, whoa, I didn't even feel like I started anything yet. I've got what? How did this happen? And it's because of things like control 1, 2, 3. You're starting at the root, healing those neural pathways, diverting the water to a place that serves you. And then it just starts the chain reaction. So when we start with the thoughts, which is why your podcast is so important, when we start to reprogram the neural pathways and we make thoughts shifting and choosing thoughts that serve us the priority, the rest of our life really does start to work and it starts to really feel magical.
I love that. We could chat for the rest of the day. I really think we could go down 10 more rabbit holes because there's so many things that I haven't asked you about that I want to, but we cannot because no one's going to hang out with us for that long.
That's right.
But before you go, I have to ask you, because I know you're going to have a cool perspective on this, I have to ask you for your definition of psychological strength.
What it means to me, and God, thank you so much for coming up with that term. I think it's a really psychological strength is just, it's going to be so empowering to so many, and I'm sure it already is. But I see it as taking responsibility for the habitual thought patterns that we participate in and replay over and over in our minds, both positive and negative. Because just like we've talked about today, I believe we have a choice about how we see and experience the world, and that it's our responsibility to learn how to master our thought life to the best of our ability so that we can shape our lives accordingly.
I love that. This has been so good. It's just so interesting to hear, your focus with a lot of the clients that you work with is on weight loss, but it's so interesting that the fundamental psychological mechanisms that you're working on are not ones about just weight loss. They are just basic psychological processes that influence absolutely every aspect of our lives. And you can see how, as somebody grows stronger and is more intentional and cultivates a set of thought processes that are more helpful in one area, it can't help but trickle through into everything else in their lives. So I want to thank you for being here, because not only are you helping people think about their bodies and their eating and everything else in a more intentional way, but those basic processes will influence absolutely everything in people's lives. And that is so valuable. So thank you so much for being here. This has just been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast. I love this stuff so much.
I love it. It's a simple fact that nearly everyone in the world could benefit from building psychological strength. But not everyone will put in the time and effort to do so. But today you did. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Building Psychological Strength. Now, if you're interested in building the mental toughness, confidence, and resilience you need to thrive through life's ups and downs, visit us at www.peakmindpsychology.com. Also, if there's someone in your life who could benefit from this episode, please share it with them. And if you yourself found this episode valuable, meaning if you took away even one insight that you can use to build psychological strength in your own life, we would so appreciate it if you would drop us a rating and a review on iTunes. The thing is, the more ratings and reviews we have, the easier it is to get this powerful and important content out to the people who need to hear it. Remember, your mind can be your most valuable asset or your biggest liability, and you get to choose. So choose wisely, my friend. And I'll see you next time on Building Psychological Strength.